whatever would switch in my mind just made everything feel like everything was so negative and I couldn't see things any other way. Like I would just wake up one day and think you're deformed, you're the ugliest person on the planet, nothing that you're doing is going to work out. Like just like these like crazy thoughts, it really felt so real. Like that was reality. And then I could wake up the next day and be normal again.
Those intrusive thoughts, let me tell you.
And so now with the medication, it keeps me more at like a baseline.
Love it.
And I'm doing like DBT therapy and regular.
Let's go, Lana. Let's go. DBT represent. I'm gonna cry. I'm so happy for her. I'm so happy for her. She's killing the game. This is the best news. She is killing the game. Yes, like this is such good news. Like I'm so proud of her. This is what I want to see. This is what I want to see. This is beautiful,
therapy
girl.
weekly as well.
Let's go. I want to jump into Lana Rhoades. So if you guys don't know, Lana Rhoades is a content creator. She actually primarily got huge on Instagram, though she is kind of known for her adult work. Some people feel like she got famous from her adult work, but technically she actually got big on Instagram, which led people to her adult work, which led her to be interviewed about that adult work. So technically she got kind of famous from her adult work, but only after amassing millions of views on Instagram. So it's kind of confusing which came first, the chicken or the egg. There's this interview that was done on Emeretta, which is like Emily Ratajkowski. I can't say her name, but she has this podcast and she interviewed Lana, and it's really, really good, right? And so I'm excited to kind of cover this with you. In this interview, there's just so much you learn about Lana that I don't think a lot of people know about her. But before we jump into that, do you remember that I made a video about Lana? And I said she was a 2C. And now I think she's definitely like a 2B. She's rocking the introspection journey. She's definitely moving up levels. And I'm really proud of her for so many reasons. I think Lana Rhoades is her stage name, so FYI. But she, came from a really rough background. And I remember when I made this video, not everybody was completely pleased with it, but I think overall people agreed. It got a pretty good analytics and like, interactions, or what's it called? Like engagement. But some people were a little upset. But I want people to understand, in order for me to humanize everybody, I have to know where you're coming from, right? I want to know where you're coming from and how you're handling things and why you're doing what you're doing, so I know how to judge you, because I can't just judge your action. People don't just do things because. Everyone is a baby when they start out, and those babies grow up in bubbles, and they are formed by those bubbles, and they're given ideas, and they're told how to think. And though people try to teach them right from wrong, it's always subjective. If you were born in a different place, you'd be on another side of right and wrong, right? So with Lana, she was obviously given a certain set of tools, and I've been rooting for her to gain more of them, and it seems like she has. And so I'm very excited to talk to you guys about this today. Look at the old video I made about her, though. I think it'll be fun. Also, what is my hair doing in this video? What is my hair doing? Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Bernice Simon. Recently, I saw an Abba and Preach video. This is probably the worst my hair has ever looked, where they talked about Lana Rhoades recently. And I wanted to talk about Lana, but I was a little hesitant because it's such a tricky little issue with a lot of layers. But I figure I've given you guys enough of my language to have this conversation with you. What I mean by that is, oh my God, I wore that dress for today's podcast. I'm going to review Lana through the lens of the levels. The levels is an observational language / philosophy I created with a co-author, in which we are able to categorize human beings based off the information we have about them, especially after talking to them. And we're able to sort of trying to be frank and transparent with how I view the world. And Lana is just such a good example of a 2C. We just have to use her as one.
When it comes to that, so what I was talking about, like being pressured to do like more and more things, more hardcore.
This is 2 years ago I made this video.
So there's two different main genres of porn. There's gonzo porn.
This is the first video of mine you watched, Ingrid? Shut up. Why were you so pale? Because I didn't go outside.
Which is the aggressive porn that you guys are talking about. It's the rough anal sex. It's the choking. I don't want to go into too much detail. Like, honestly, some of my experiences are really humiliating for me, and I wish that they never happened. There's stuff going on, like people getting pissed on, men are pissing inside of women's vaginas.
Yeah, Nova's right. Make sure you credit this creator. I hear she's brutal with copyright and she might try to cancel you. That's true. Guys, make sure you watch this video and like the stream. Thank you.
As assholes down their throats. They're sorry.
Oh, don't cry.
This was your first one too? Oh my God, I love it.
Now I'm crying. I'm like, God damn it. No, don't cry.
I'm
It's
just
okay.
giving some examples.
But if Lana sees this, girl, reach out to me.
Girl.
Literally, my work is to help women like you who are in a position of questioning their worth in relation to their past. And trust me, as a woman who has definitely done, a lot, he wanted her to eat it. Of the individual is so much more important than anything else. I do believe in people's sell out constantly. Like Lana tells this story about how she had to do horrible things in the sex industry and she felt like coerced and felt like men pushed her to do it. She had to do this thing where she vomited into a bowl of piss and then he wanted her to eat it.
Guys are literally punching into a girl's asshole like this, and like she's going to have issues for the rest of her life due to this. And is it worth someone making a little bit of money and someone jerking off to it? One of the worst. Honestly, I feel like I'm in denial sometimes and I can't accept some of the things that I've done.
Just want to pause here to reassure Lana and anyone out there hearing this. This is incredibly normal, especially after doing something that is outside your concept of how you see yourself.
There is one thing that, I tried talking to a therapist about before, something that I had to do for a scene that was really rough for me. Basically, this guy had a bowl and he like gagged me until I threw up into it. And then he like pissed in the bowl. And during the scene, he asked me to drink it. And I didn't know how to say no. It was one of the most disgusting, foul scenes I ever had to do. And I'm telling a therapist this and they don't even fucking know what to say to me.
Yeah.
You know what, girl? I feel the same way I do when I made this video. I get it. We've all done things. I get it. But I feel like for some reason, maybe it's because I'm a girl. I don't know. But I'm like, I get it. I feel a lot of people would listen to that and be like, what the fuck? But I listen to that and I'm like, no. I get it.
Yeah.
No one can relate. Like, no one fucking knows what to say about it. I'm not saying that I was raped.
But you were put in the spot. You were put
I
pressure.
told this guy, like, yeah, I'm excited. Let's do this. I didn't know how to say no. I just wanted everyone to be happy. So I can't blame anyone. All that I can do now is make the best of my experiences and accept it, which is really hard for me to do.
I'm sorry. I just need to pause it here again.
A hand job behind the dump.
Have lessons from their ancestors given to them. So you might as well do it, right? Or no, I'm not going to do it and I'm going to get kicked out of Hollywood. And I know a lot of people would have said, that's so stupid. Why did you do that? You could have made so much money. Exactly. You can do that if you would like. It should be your choice to literally sell out to make money. I just watched Friends with my brother and Joey has that whole episode where he's going to be Dr. Ray, whatever his name is, on Days of Our Lives. And he's going to be on Days of Our Lives if he sleeps with one of the producers, I guess, or whatever she is. And at first, he's like, I don't want to do this, man. I feel like I'm selling out. And then it was an even bigger role, and he fucked the shit out of her for it, right? But felt dirty afterwards. I'm going to be honest with you. One of the reasons I always say I'm a nice little poor YouTuber is because I am very, very much anti-selling out based off my own values. And that's the thing.
Now, this could be because of my neurodivergent sense of justice, but I will say, yeah, there's something about my brain where I'm like, nah, I'm going to be poor. Now, maybe because I've been with $0 before in my account and I just rebuild myself over and over again. A part of me is like, yeah, there's no way money could ever be like, I would rather starve. Like, you know what I mean? Money just isn't, I just don't value it that much. Like, I know it's important and that sounds really privileged, but I'd rather starve. Ma'am, take my credit cards, take my car. No, thank you. Like, no, I can't. But people do. And I think they only do that because they don't have that relationship with themselves yet. When you have a specific relationship with your consciousness, I just think there are things you will never end up doing again. And I see that in Lana now. So let's go to Lana now. Lana now, I think, has a much better relationship with her consciousness. I'm so excited. I definitely see a huge growth in her. I mean, she looks very different, but obviously, like, she has like a self-awareness about her. This is a podcast. Once again, I'll link it in the chat. Hopefully, they let me stream this with you guys. I might just have to pause it enough times, but it's really good. And I just want to watch as much of it as we need to kind of get the point across. But I really see that in Lana now. You know what I mean? So let's go ahead and get started.
I think in a lot of ways it was because I was easy to manipulate. And a lot of people will say now, like, oh, is dating harder after you did pornography and were a sex worker? Like, no, it was harder when I was younger because I was so naive and men used to really take advantage of me. Now, because I've experienced all of that, like, no man's going to take advantage of me.
Thank you so much for being here. You were on my list a year ago as somebody I wanted to
They're both so beautiful.
come on the podcast.
Yo, this video is blocked in my country. Wait, can you not watch my stream now?
Or you put out your first episode.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to do it, but our schedules just
Yeah, she looks so different, huh? She's gorgeous though. I love
haven't
it.
lined
What a
up.
I
vibe.
know.
now.
So I just feel like it's perfect. It's almost been exactly a year and I'm just really happy you're here. So there's so much I wanted to talk to you about, but I wanted to start with just what your childhood was like growing up in Chicago, right?
Yeah, I'm from Chicago originally. So
What was that like?
I was raised by a single mom. My parents got divorced while my mom was pregnant with me, actually. So I never.
Now, I just want to say something out loud for all of us. Lana is beautiful in this video. She has also had a lot of work done. So if you feel, unattractive, remember, you're not ugly, you're just poor. Okay? Lana is a beautiful human, but she's got a lot of work done. Okay?
Never experienced like a father in the home. So now I would say like there's times as being a single mom myself, or even deciding to have a child without having a partner, where I never thought twice about it or thought, oh, this is weird. Or like I'll be in the airport sometimes and I'll have like all my bags.
This podcast is Emily's podcast. I linked it in the chat.
Then a car seat and the baby stroller, and I'm carrying so many things. And people are like, do you need help? And like, I don't think that it's difficult because I saw that my entire life.
Yeah.
So it's just normal for me to do all of that. I don't think any way about being a single mom because that's all that I've seen.
Now I'm in the mode when
That makes
someone
sense.
does go to help me, I'm like, oh, wow, that's an option. Like people do this with people a lot, especially
Yeah.
traveling.
Yeah.
Traveling solo with a 2-year-old is very real and hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
It definitely helps every time. Like I've learned to accept more help. Like when people are like, oh, can I help you with that? I'm like, yes, please.
Yes. No, me too.
Please.
Totally. I used to be like, oh, I'm fine.
Yeah.
No, it really counts. And you had a little sister that you kind of took care of too, right? Growing up?
So
Did she get the surgery because she wants to be less recognizable? I don't no. She got surgery before she even like when she was doing porn. She got surgery like 8 years ago. She's gotten a BBL, she's gotten her nose job, she's gotten a bunch of things for porn. And then after, I'm not sure what she's done recently, but she's obviously done something, right? Because like she looks different. Now I saw this TikToker earlier that said something, and I think it stood out to me. And she said, why do younger people look so much older than us? And people are saying the Botox is what makes them look old. Because sometimes I'll look at girls in their 20s and I'm like, why do they look so old? And millennials think, this content creator was saying, millennials think Gen Zers look old because they have Botox. And I was like, I wonder if that's true because Lana's in her 20s. Like all these people are in their 20s, right? How old's Lana now? How old is Lana now? How old is Lana? How old is Lana? Lana. She's 27. But like a lot of people have like this look that makes them in my mind look older. You know what I mean? Single mom by choice. I see it's happening more and more now. I don't know her situation, but I see more videos of women going through IVF single. She actually got pregnant by a guy. She's worth $20 million, so she most certainly can afford to do it single. But yeah, a lot of the girls in their 20s look older to me because I think it's the Botox look. She does look heroin chic. So she is like skinny technically, but I don't know if that's good or bad, or I don't know. She does have a look though. I think she's very pretty. She looks 38. I think it's on purpose. Like the models, even the big famous runway models, I feel like they all look old to me, but I think that's what they're trying to go for, young but old. So they're all in their 20s, but they all look like they're in their 40s to me, but not because they look like they're in their 40s, but because they have that Hollywood image of what a girl in her 40s looks like, but they're always being played by like young people. I think, I don't know what's happening. There's something there. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Like there's this aesthetic where I'm like, are you young? It's what's happening. It's like when you think high schoolers in shows are played by actual high schoolers, but they're actually played by 25-year-olds. I think the reverse is happening here, where models look like they're older, but they're actually younger. And it's like very confusing to my brain.
She's my older sister.
Okay, she's older.
Yeah. So I have a sister.
Listen to this. She has a sister.
3.5 years older than me. But the reason why it was more of me being in like the role, like the older one,
The caregiver, yeah.
is because my sister has schizophrenia
Mm.
Listen
and
to
she's
this.
completely like disabled by it. Catatonic, really, where she couldn't even converse with us. Like, say I go home for Thanksgiving, she's just staring or like laughing, and like she can't. She's disabled by it completely. She lives on disability. She lives in public housing. She can't really do anything. And she also has a child though.
Wow.
And my mom's raising him.
Wow. And they still in Chicago?
Yeah, they're all still in Chicago.
What was that like growing up with a sister who was dealing with that? Did she have schizophrenia from a, because sometimes the onset comes later with schizophrenia,
Yeah,
right?
mid-20s for a lot of women.
So she wasn't diagnosed with schizophrenia until maybe 1920 when it became
Wow.
really prevalent. But she had lots of issues from a younger age, and it's often triggered by trauma.
Mhm.
So she had some things happen to her with someone in our immediate family.
Ugh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
And it just, I guess, kind of ruined her entire life because it ravaged her brain really.
Like when people say, what's the big deal about trauma? Can't you get over trauma? Trauma's not that bad. Who cares? Like, blah, blah, blah. Trauma can literally shift everything for you for the rest of your life. That's why I don't like when communities, you do you, humans are going to human, but like communities will talk about people's trauma like it's not that big of a deal, get over it, until someone in your life or someone you know becomes basically a vegetable because of trauma, or basically like they can't exist or they have to unalive themselves to cope. So again, like people on the internet especially are like, who cares about trauma? Yes, some trauma is, and you can have trauma that you can go to therapy one session and get over it. Some people have trauma that they never get over. So again, when I'm dealing with people that have trauma, the question is, where are you on the spectrum? Everything is valid, but some of you don't need as much work as other people. Great news for the people on the lower part of the spectrum who need less like assistance. Great. Love that. Awesome. But there are people who lose themselves to trauma, right? And I want to make sure that this channel and this space, without jumping into other people's bubbles, without using like, you know, these little words, without like, you know, trying to virtue signal, is just saying, hey, trauma's trauma. Everyone has a different relationship. Some people get in a car accident. I've been in a few myself. Don't have any PTSD or any issues with it. Some people get in a car accident and it causes PTSD. I am not here to judge how you experience the trauma. The question is, I need less help than other people. So we should put resources, hopefully, into the people who need that help, and our family and our friends and our, again, everyone has a different relationship with it. I got bullied out of high school, but I got over it eventually. Some people get bullied in high school and are still suffering from it into their 40s and 50s. Everyone has a different relationship with trauma. And I just want to be open to the fact and be grateful for the fact that I didn't end up getting as long-term impacted by some of those traumas, even though some of them I did, right? I think people forget, instead of like bragging, oh, I didn't get as traumatized by my assault as you did, I'm better than you should be fucking grateful. You should be grateful. Show some fucking gratitude that you weren't one of the people who ended up being permanently impacted for the rest of your fucking life. But instead, you are arrogant and selfish and so unempathetic that you say, I'm better than you because it didn't impact me as much. Girl.
And the first few symptoms she had was this disorder called trichotillomania, where you're pulling out your hair. And it was her eyelashes, her eyebrows, then the hair on
Have you guys seen this on the internet? It's really interesting. One of my relatives has like not necessarily this illness, but has like sort of like an adjacent part of it where it's kind of interesting. And it's one of those things where like we're keeping tabs to make sure it doesn't turn into the full-blown problem, but it can be a big problem.
her head. And I just really didn't understand. I was like, well, she looks like a monster because I'm much younger than her. And she started that at like 8. So I
you
must
were
have
at
been
4
like
or
4
something.
or
Wow,
5.
that's really
And I
young.
was scared of her. And my mom didn't really understand why she was doing this. Then
See,
next,
we're so lucky. Like, if my kid has any interesting abnormal behavior, I already am like, okay, I'm ready. What is it? What's the diagnosis? What is it? Because, yeah, like some parents wouldn't even know, right? But people will pull out the hairs on their head until they're completely bald and they can't help it. Or they'll pull off like all the hair. They'll just pick at their body. It's very compulsive. It's a big issue. But I can imagine being a parent who's like, what am I doing? My 8-year-old is doing this. Oh, kids will be kids. Oh, this. It's hard to help your kids if you don't have the tools or the education. Or if you have the mindset of like, never my kids. It's never my kids with problems.
it was an eating disorder, which also was scary.
Yeah.
Like imagine being a young kid and there's like this stick person walking around
A lot
who
of
doesn't have
control.
eyebrows or eyes.
See, eating disorder, picking disorder, compulsion disorder, it's all very like centered around like a need for control. I'm assuming because of what happened with the close family member, right?
Eyelashes, has a bald spot in the back of their head. It was just a lot of not understanding until I was older.
Yeah.
And kind of felt at times like I was living in a horror movie because
Yeah.
I was scared of her sometimes. Yeah.
But you were also kind of taking care of her.
Yes, because my mom worked full time from
Mhm.
like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And so I would get home from school and I would have to watch my sister. As she got older, it turned
So
into
hard.
suicide.
This is a hard life. I am really grateful. Look, I want to make it clear that I am privileged in a big way because my parents are still together. My parents were maybe not the most financially literate, but they were financially literate enough that I never had to help them pay bills, right? My parents were immigrants that were success stories of being immigrants to America. In so many ways, like I am so privileged, and I just want to make it clear that I didn't have this story. My life was so easy compared to this. I had a 2-parent household. I had a mom who was home full time. I had the resources. I never went hungry as a child. I never needed to, I had clothes. They might have been hand-me-downs, but they were clothes. And so like there's so much to be grateful for, and Lana really came from it. She's telling a story that is so hard. And I think we just need to be very grateful if we're not in that situation, and then very compassionate if we know somebody who is. How should a parent help a child like that? Well, honestly, by seeking medical intervention, right? Medical help. Like there's mental health facilities, there's child psychologists. You can get someone to help them. I mean, you have to refer to the professionals, right? And Lana's mom probably didn't even have the money if she knew better. Even if she knew to do that, she probably just didn't even have the money to do it. So at that point, you have to start doing it yourself. It's one of those stories of like, if you can't pay someone to do it, you got to start figuring it out on your own. Heavy research, doing it to the best of your ability, working within the system. It's not an easy answer. You know what I mean? But obviously, when I'm judging people, gay judging, not condemning judging, I'm trying to think, where are they coming from? What are the tools they have? Yes, in an ideal world, Lana's mom would have done more. But Lana's mom did her best with the tools she had at the time. I think that's really important. And that's why we can have compassion, meaning to suffer with. We can say, oh, this person is coming from this area with this amount of introspective work, with this amount of understanding, with this amount of extrospection work, with this amount of like, do you get what I'm saying? You're being compassionate. You're saying, okay, with the tools you had, this is the best you could do. And everyone's doing that. Everyone is doing that in the whole world. Everyone is doing the best. That's why when people say like, I'm the one who's self-aware, I'm the one who knows better, I'm the one who's, do you? Does it show in your life? And even if you are self-aware, it's never an art of perfection. You're always going to fuck up because you're a human, right?
Side attempts almost weekly. And so I would essentially come home from school, not be able to do my homework, not really be able to be a kid, because it's like you need to watch your sister and make sure she doesn't kill herself.
Hold on. I want to show you this. I saw this TikTok the other day, and I don't like this TikTok creator personally. I think she's just so aggravating. But
I learned an interesting
do you guys see it? It goes, I learned an interesting fact the other day that 80% of the population is.
fact the other day that 80% of the population is, in fact, actually not self-aware.
You're kidding.
I learned an
Okay, so this person makes content, and I don't like their content. I think they're negative. I think they're self-righteous. I think they're so just not self-aware, right? And a big part of that is because, like, if you read their comment section too, every comment's like, oh my God, right, I'm the self-aware one. I'm the self-aware one. I'm the self-aware one. I'm the self-aware one. I'm like, 80% of the population isn't self-aware, and you think you're part of the 20%? How? So I go to her content because I was like, okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she is very self-aware. And her content is so not self-aware, right? Now, maybe it is self-aware in a sense that she knows herself. Like, introspection is about how much you know yourself, right? And extrospection is how you see and understand the world, right? In relation to the world. So maybe she's self-aware enough to be introspective about herself. But in my mind, a part of that self-awareness would also coincide with the other bubbles. Maybe, not always, right? But it is a part of it, I think, to some extent. I think ultimately, like, most people aren't on an introspective journey. And I bet if I sat down with this woman, based off of what I've seen from her content, I could probably make her cry within 30 minutes by asking her questions she's never had to ask herself based off of her content. Because again, I could be wrong. Maybe she's this conniving, wonderful, introspective person that created content that just like gets the masses involved. But she seems pretty authentic and well-meaning. And I'm sure she's a good person, right? Most people are good. But in my mind, as I'm watching her work, it is so just, I'm right and everyone else is wrong. And I'm like, everyone else is wrong. And again, the focus of my work is to say, like, we're all probably wrong. At least when it comes to the answer for 8 billion people. And that's really scary to admit out loud that, hey, I think I might be wrong for everyone else, but right for me. Maybe you're just right for you, which is a version of self-awareness, right? And so, again, when I'm judging Lana or her mom or anybody else on the internet, I'm judging them with an understanding of where they are in their life and what opportunities they've had and how many outs have they been given, how many people have tried to help them, how many chances, you know what I mean? And then how self-aware they are about knowing that it's them versus other people. You know what I mean? Oh man, I want to know those questions and answers them for myself now. Honestly, if you guys want, sign up for a call, come to a Discord event. We can start doing like, I like these questions. And again, it's just the habit of asking yourself why. So every time you come across with an opinion, like the woman, the TikTok I just showed you, she's like super pro-Palestine. Why? 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 And she'll say, oh, I don't want to hurt babies or innocent civilians. Cool. So why are you hurting Jewish ones? Oh, well, I can't be pro-Israel because they're anti-Palestine babies. Okay. Why would you pick a side? They're both killing civilians, like, period. It doesn't matter how much you feel about it. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. The reality is like you can't pick a side. Because the moment you pick a side, you're killing someone else's babies. That's the real point. And if you can't face that reality, you're not ready to have the conversation. That is why life is so difficult. No matter whose side you pick, someone's baby is going to die. And that is way more responsibility than anyone wants to take on. And that's why they don't do it. Because they would have to take on that responsibility. Also, I should probably link this video.
I learned an interesting fact the other day.
I will link this video so you guys can watch it. But that is the reality. And that is what people are never going to want to have a conversation about. Because we all want to say we're pro-life, but then we vote for Iraqi babies to die in war. Oh, we're pro-choice or pro-life, but we're pro-choice, right? I remember I saw this video of a woman doing IVF. I'm on IVF TikTok. And they're like, oh, we have a baby coming. And it's like a little clump of cells. The same clump of cells, I, as a pro-choicer, am okay with aborting. Because I think it's okay to stop a baby in production, right? But the same group of people that are usually pro-IVF are usually pro-choice. That's the generalization of the bubbles I'm in. Pro-lifers are not pro-IVF usually, because pro-lifers are usually religious, and religious people tend to be anti-IVF because it's playing God. So technically, when I see IVF baby, I assume you're pro-choice. But that little clump of cells that this woman is crying over because she had a miscarriage and showing us a picture of this clump of cells and saying, I can't believe I lost my baby. We are also voting for pro-choice measures. I am myself included. I'm just saying out loud, I am voting for the termination of that baby. Because I'm not here to play some cognitive dissonance game with myself. In an ideal world, we'd never have abortions. But we don't live in that world, do we? So sometimes you get to kill your baby, right? And sometimes you cry about it and sometimes you throw a party over it. People be crazy out here. But ultimately, we are destroying life. Every time we eat a plant, every time we consume an animal, every time. We are absolutely okay with destroying life. We just like to justify it when we feel comfortable with it. And that is the hard reality of being an animal, is you have to admit like, oh, damn, maybe I don't mind destroying life. I just want to do it sometimes or in different ways. I want to harm reduce, which I think we can do as a species. I'm actually very optimistic. I think as a species, we can absolutely harm reduce. But someone's going to have to die. Whether it's us or them or plants or babies, you know.
The police, if she does try.
Did you have to call the police?
So many times. There are police at my house every week.
Wow, that's extremely traumatic.
I didn't think too much of it at the time, honestly. It was just like something that I had to do. So you just like go through it, you get through it, and then you're just like, go to school tomorrow. It's a new day. I've always been extremely resilient.
So you're growing up, you're taking care of your sister, your mom is working so much. What were you hoping to do with your life? What was
Great question by Emily. Great question. Police are coming to your door. You're taking care of your sister. Your mom is working. What did you imagine for your life?
How did you think about a way out?
Yeah, so it's kind of a coping mechanism that I still have now. I would watch YouTube videos, documentaries of girls like Anna Nicole Smith or the girls of Playboy. I was obsessed with it. And their life looked so fun because I had all this stuff going on at home. And then I would see them jumping on a trampoline and doing like parties and wearing cool costumes. And so I grew up thinking that sex work was like this glamorous thing that permits you to have this really fun life. But
Same. I went through a Playboy stage in my life where I was leaving religion and trying to like have agency on my body. And I was like in love with Hugh Hefner and all of this stuff. And I would like glorify this idea of being like a house bunny. And now I'm like, why did I ever want to do this? Right? Like, why did I ever want to be at the mercy of some man's fantasy? Right? It's like, no, ma'am, right? Lana's backstory makes so much sense in her life story. I know. I'm so stoked. This is a great
I
interview.
never really took into account what was behind the scenes going into it. So I was very naive, and a lot of people don't understand, like, how could you think that you're going to do porn or strip, but not really process that you have to have sex with people or be touched with people. But I figured.
Heard her podcast was getting canceled. Said Emily really seemed to enjoy it. Why is it getting canceled? It's on YouTube. YouTube can't cancel it. Just do it.
Figured out later, like I've become more self-aware later in life to figure out why that happened.
And what would you say? Like, what was your idea of it versus what it actually became?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I watched all these documentaries and I didn't necessarily watch what they were doing as work. And so the day that I turned 18, I went to the strip club to become a dancer, and that was fine. I actually like miss it sometimes, but there were circumstances where guys would touch you or grab you in ways.
That is actually one of the reasons I won't date a stripper. One of the reasons I won't date a stripper is not because of stripping and not because of the girls, but because of the customers. The amount of sexual assault, sexual harassment that ends up occurring during the club hours, too high for me. I'm not putting my partner in that situation. If they had a really safe club, if they had a club with high security, if they had a really high standard, maybe. But one of the reasons I don't want to date a stripper is, one, the hours are crazy. But two, I don't want to send my partner into a situation where they're getting sexually assaulted at work. Like, ma'am, no, we're not joining a strip club and we're certainly not joining the military. No sexual assault for us, ma'am.
That they weren't supposed to. And so I never thought of that happening. I've always been very like, and people still tell me this, that I'm very innocent and they're shocked by it.
I see that.
What did you like about the strip club?
The community of girls.
Yeah.
And
I can see that.
I never thought that I was pretty growing up or attractive. I was so surprised when they hired me. I was like, oh my God, like they really gave me a job here. And I also was raised extremely frugally. So when someone gave me $100 for a dance, I was like, oh my God, this is so much money.
Yeah.
I can't believe they want to give me $100.
I mean,
And so it was the attention and building my self-esteem while going on stage. But the community of girls was what I really miss about it.
Wow, it's I'm thinking about that movie Hustlers. Did you see it?
I mean, Lana's always been pretty. I don't know if this is a real picture of Lana. It says Lana before she went plastic. I don't know if this is true because she's always been so pretty. Hold on. Let me move it over. Hello, ma'am. Oh my God, Brittany. What's happening? There it goes. I don't know if that's true that that's her, but like Lana's always looked so pretty then. You know what I mean? But I can see how she looks different now, more Hollywood or whatever. Okay.
Like all the girls just supporting each other, getting into mischief together. It's so fun.
And kind of working together. So what was the
She does sound super naive, not gonna lie. She is. Okay, again, we're talking about introspection. We're talking about self-awareness. We're talking about world knowledge. Lana is really naive, like in a lot of ways. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I just think it's an interesting, it's just the reality of Lana's story. And I think that that's fair. And she's not obligated. Look, she's worth a lot of money. She's very successful. She doesn't have to do it. But like, it was one of those things where I think I can believe that. I know a lot of people won't. They're like, no way, no way, no way. But like, I think a lot of people are a lot more naive than they think they are. And I think that's fine. It's just like, you always look at it with, again, does she know how many games are being played? Does she know what game it is? Does she know? Now she's more self-aware. Right? And I think that's beautiful. And that's what I'm rooting for, is I'm so excited for her to be more self-aware, right? Which is what I'm seeing in her work now. But obviously, like, she's got that, like, I wouldn't say she's the most street smart.
the next step out? Why did you leave the strip club?
I think so. I got married also during that time.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I had just turned 18, I started working at the strip club and I also got married. And I had already had in my mind, obviously from all the documentaries and research that I had done, that I wanted to do porn,
Okay.
just based off of that I wanted to be like the girls that I saw. And so I did not do that because I was married, and my husband at the time would never, like, if I even brought up that I was interested in that, he was a Syrian and very like,
Oh my God. Ma'am.
if I wore a shirt that he didn't like, he would cut it up. He didn't know that I was
Sir, put the scissors down,
working
sir.
at the strip club.
I'm a Syrian, in case you guys are wondering what I'm referencing.
How did you meet him?
Which they always, so I met him when I was working at Tilted Kilt, which is like Hooters.
Do you guys have a Tilted Kilt where you live? I remember when Tilted Kilt came to Southern California, and I was like, what is this? And it was like, it was such a weird, it's like a weird Hooters, but like it's different. They wear like kilts, literally.
At
Okay.
17. So it's like, you would think if you don't like girls that dress promiscuously,
I thought Iraqi, Assyrians are from Iraq. Didn't she say Assyrian, or did she say Syrian? She said Assyrian, right? We are from Iraq.
that you wouldn't have tried to date me or marry me, but he did.
Was he much older than you?
Yes. So he was 32,
Wow.
and I had just turned 18 that week that we met.
Wow.
Yeah.
She could have said Syrian. I heard Assyrian. Did you guys hear Syrian? Maybe it was.
Is that what is that like to look back on now, that relationship?
I think that it shaped me in some ways that I have moved away from, just because I didn't realize how controlling he was at the time. And I had
So common. That's why, guys, that's why we're suspicious of age gap relationships, because it's usually a sign of intense trauma and parentification of the younger person, or the younger person trying to escape through marriage. The reason, again, I am hesitant, right, to be excited about 18-year-olds getting with 30-year-olds is because usually, you know what I mean? Like, hello? Like, it usually indicates huge trauma. And it's usually stories like this. I have yet to see an age gap relationship where the younger person isn't under 25 and doesn't have insane trauma that leads them into the arms of an older man. I said what I said. Nira says, but your parents don't speak Assyrian, do they? They speak Sudith, which is the language of Assyrians, and they speak Arabic, and they speak English.
Issues in my relationships after that of expectations of relationships because he made me feel like so many things that weren't really wrong, like just living your life basically, were wrong to do to your partner. So also probably going back to like not seeing a relationship growing up because my mom never dated after she had me.
That's interesting that her mom never dated again. I wonder if that was her way of keeping the family stable. Not that you shouldn't marry when you have children, but there is some evidence that shows that people that remarry and make a lot of stepfathers and step siblings and step things for their families aren't always the greatest. It could go good or bad either way. So I'm encouraging you just to choose healthy. But I wonder if her mom chose not to date again so she could focus on her kids.
I really had no idea when I got into this marriage that he was being over controlling or
Right. It was just what you knew again.
Right.
yeah. And so when I got into a relationship with my boyfriend that I ended up doing a whole YouTube channel with,
That's Mike, right? She's talking about Mike. I'm pretty sure.
we had some issues with just I would construe things as cheating that weren't cheating that he would do, and just
I really appreciate Mike and Lana's relationship. I'm pretty sure she's talking about Mike.
being over controlling myself because
Mike
it was
from Impulsive.
ingrained in me that this was how you handle a relationship and this is what's respectful and what's not.
Yeah.
And now that I've grown into myself and seen what I like, I've moved away from those beliefs. So that's one negative that came from it.
A lot of the guys that I was in relationships with and dated, they're still, 10, 12 years older than me.
Yeah.
Still haven't gotten to the age that they were when they met me. And it's such a weird thing because I'm like, I would never talk to a 17-year-old
Someone's
guy
so
now.
young, yeah.
I mean, even 17-year-old girls, I'm like, oh, they're cool and amazing and whatever, but I'm not trying to chill with them.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's just such an obvious kind of gap between the way we see the world, because they're still learning.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways it was because I was easy to manipulate, and I had a lot of people will say now, like, oh, is dating harder after you did pornography and were a sex worker? Like, no, it was harder when I was younger because I was so naive.
Because when people say, is it easier to date then, they're thinking or if it's easier to date then because like you're famous and have access, or it's easier to date now because you are famous and you have access. But they forget that there's an element to dating which is like safety. So it's safer and easier probably for her to date now than before. You know what I mean?
And men used to really take advantage of me. Now, because I've experienced all of that, like, no man's going to take advantage of me.
Yeah.
But I would say, yeah, like they definitely used their age and their life experience over me to put me in situations that weren't so great.
How were you hiding going to the strip club from him? Like, how did that work?
I just said that I was bartending at nighttime, and then I did have a relationship with my dad at one point, and he would drop me off there.
Got it. So so then what happened? How did you kind of like decide, okay, now I'm going to start doing adult films?
Me and the husband like took a break for a few years. He actually ended up going to prison. So that's
good times.
Why we got separated. And he broke up with me before he went, but we were still like legally married. And so I was like, fine, like, fuck you. Like, you just left me. You don't want to be with me anymore, even though you're going to be in prison. Like, we could still be together.
Yeah. Normally it's the other way around, right? Where the woman is like, you're disappearing, so I'm out.
Yeah, no, he left me. I think he was probably cheating on me the whole time that we were together. So I was just like, fuck this. I'm going to go do what I've been wanting to do that I wasn't doing while we were together out of respect for you. And he was in prison for like a few years. A lot of people don't know this, but it's been like over 8 years now since I actually shot professional porn.
8 years. Listen to this. This part is the most fascinating part.
And I only did it for 2 4-month stints.
Wow.
So it was really such a short period in my life, yet so impactful. And I guess like porn is quite jarring. So I could see why that still is people's like largest perception of me.
Even mine. It was definitely my largest perception of her, because I don't always pay that's just how I knew her as well. So learning that wasn't the thing that necessarily put her on the map is crazy.
I mean, I saw that like you are at one point, like there's something like 334 million views or something crazy of your videos.
I think it's billions.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense. How does that feel?
I don't think about stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
me-
impossible to conceive of it, right?
Yeah. Or the thought, like, I still don't even comprehend, like, say I put out a photo that's sexy on Instagram. I don't comprehend that it's getting a bunch of saves because guys are jerking off to it.
Yeah, I understand that. It's hard to conceptualize like views or people or the idea of it.
Like, sure, I logically know that, but when I'm posting the photo or like, I know that there are videos of
How did she become that popular if she didn't do porn for long? That's how it always is. Most people don't make it more than 2 years in the porn industry. Being in porn for a very long time is very, very rare. What people are normally doing is in professional porn, in set porn. It's different if you're doing porn at home or on your own OnlyFans or anything like that. But if you're doing production porn, most people last less than 2 years. And that's why there's such a movement against porn, because people don't understand that, you're not going to spend your whole life doing this, right? So something to keep in mind, right? But if you do like Lena the Plug, Lena does home porn with her husband. So you're more likely to keep that up. Or I'm probably going to do OnlyFans for a very long time because I want to be an old lady on OnlyFans. I think that'd be fun. And that, like, I do erotic, like, stuff. Anyway, follow my new Twitter. Anyway, so there's like this whole thing around it that's different. But if you're doing production porn, very different. Right? You know what I mean? Everyone has a different relationship with it, but a lot of these girls go in and get out as soon as possible. What do I think about Mia Khalifa? I don't really have strong opinions about Mia. I've never been a big fan, but I've never been really a hater. I mean, yeah, I don't really have strong opinions about Mia in general.
me out there. I don't think about these guys like sexualized. Maybe it's just I don't want to think about that, so
Yeah.
I don't.
So you were really young when you started, right?
I was 19.
Wow.
19.
And did it feel good at first?
She
What
couldn't
did
even
it
buy a
feel
beer.
like to start doing it? Because you'd obviously thought about Anna Nicole Smith and like had this sort of idea.
R.I.P. Anna Nicole Smith. Anna Nicole Smith had a horrible end to her life.
of it, and I'm sure the reality was jarring, right?
It was far different. Yeah. I don't think that I ever liked it. That's why it only lasted in 4-month stints. I did it one time for 4 months. Probably after the first month, I was like, how do I get out of this? Because I always was really in demand since I first got there. And they would book you out for like 5 months in advance.
I could never.
Like even more.
I could never do porn in a porn studio. My spoons, I would wake up with chronic pain, my neurodivergent, everything about my personality as a human could never do this version of sex work. But I commend them for being able to do it, because like I cannot be somewhere people need me to be, like for porn stuff. Like I can't be sexy on a day I don't feel sexy. Like that's not gonna happen. So no ma'am. So like major props, but like listen to how Lana dealt with it. Like listen to how she got through it. Because to be honest, like she uses disassociation, spoiler, but like I will tell you, I've been disassociated at work before, but I can't be disassociated while you're in my butt. You know, that's not going to happen.
more than that. I think I was booked out for an entire year.
Wow.
And working nearly every day, they wanted me to work. And the agents are very.
I was going to say, is there an agency?
Yeah.
Okay.
So not an agency. So my first one was one particular agent, and he operated by himself. When he first had me come out there, I had to stay in his apartment with him.
Come out to
LA.
Okay.
Yeah, from Chicago.
Mhm.
He flew me out there. We had to live in his apartment. So it wasn't even like a separate model apartment. It was like a model room in his apartment that I shared with one
Wow.
other girl who I'm still very close with to this day. And her story is so interesting as well. But yeah, I had to live with him. And it just got very toxic very fast, where I didn't feel comfortable asking for time off to go to the doctor, or he wouldn't allow me to have a boyfriend. But it was just the fact that it's supposed to be professional and
course.
someone's screaming at me and making me feel unsafe. And so that was why I left the first time, was because the whole agent situation became so toxic. But I probably did it for 3 more months than I had wanted to, just because I didn't know how to tell him that I didn't want to work with him anymore, or that I
You know, work is so much like a romantic relationship. You know, when you're in a relationship, but you're like kind of exiting the relationship emotionally, so many of us have that relationship with our jobs where you're always like thinking, like, where's the next job? When's the next job? When's the next job? But you can't quit your job because you need to pay rent. But you're like, man, when's the next job? That's a real relationship we're all having with our jobs, huh?
didn't want to shoot porn anymore. I was really bad at saying no at that time in my life.
I mean, you were 19.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was it like being on those sets?
I've kind of like disassociated, where if I see myself now back then, or like try to remember it, it's really hard. Like I don't, like, it almost feels like those aren't my memories and that wasn't me.
Yeah.
Like I really don't remember much. Sure, there's some bad experiences that obviously engraved in my brain that I remember, but it still doesn't feel like me. Or like the average like day to day of it, I don't remember at all. It's kind of like
Just a blank period.
yeah,
Yeah, I've heard that's pretty common with some people with all kinds of jobs. People who join the military, people who do sex work, people who are cops, like people who are in really like intense kind of consent violating jobs. I've heard that it's very similar.
blank space. And sure, there's like certain times that I really remember specifically going to a set and being disgusted by the guy that I knew I was going to have to do a scene with. And I remember that vividly. But other than that, there's not much memory of any of it.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. So what was the circumstances that made you return to it for the second 4 months?
Great questions.
I owed a lot of taxes for the first time. And I think I had went back to school and I needed money.
I'm assuming that when you're a porn actress or actor, you're a 1099 worker. It's kind of the YouTube conundrum too. Like you pay taxes. If you're not ahead of your taxes, like I'm still learning how to get ahead of my taxes. It's hard because like I don't make enough money to pay next year's taxes and this year's bills. So like I'm always playing catch up. But that makes sense to me. Is like when you make a lot of money. I remember Vera Bambi had the same problem. She made like so much money one year. She owed like $100,000 to the IRS. And she was like, holy shit. And then you have to remember to put money aside for your taxes. It's very hard to do that, especially when you want to use that money to like make more money. And so it is difficult. Some people recommend you use that money to make more money. And some people recommend you put it off to the side. Some people recommend you pay quarterly tax because you get, you know, a negative, you get an interest, basically get penalized for not paying it. There's always like these things that's so interesting. So I'm so common for people to run into this circumstance where they're like, holy shit, I made so much money, but now I owe so much money. What do I do?
For college. And now I remember. So those thoughts were in my mind, like needing money for all the things that I wanted to do in life. And there was this really big studio back in the day that all the girls wanted to shoot for. Like they would shoot really classy, pretty stuff. And they were like, look, if you come back and just do your first anal scene for us, we'll give you like $40K for the showcase that you're doing, which was like a 5-scene showcase. And so I was like, okay, that'll solve my money problems with school, with my taxes, and I can just do this one movie that has 5 scenes in it and then dip out again. But I ended up getting sucked back in for another 4 months because the demand for me just became higher and higher. And multiple studios were like, we want to make.
You know, she reminds me a lot of guys I know, including some of my brothers who did construction work. It's very similar where like construction work pays really well, but it's really daunting and it's hard on your body. And you'll be like, I'm out. I'm not going to do this anymore. I just want to be clean. I don't want to go to work and be smelly. But then the pay's so good. They're like, hey, come do another job. hey, come do another job. And guys are like, fuck, like, how do I say no to this? Guys have the same problem in different industries as girls do in this industry, or even guys in this industry, I'm sure. Like, all of us have moments in our life where we have to do work we don't want to do because it's money we understand and we know how to do the job, right? So I think this is just so normal. I know it could be different because it's sex work, but doesn't this just sound like someone with a normal job having normal job problems?
Make showcases around you, like just,
And
you know,
was
if you're
the money getting
handed-
better?
The money was never great.
Yeah, you've talked about
That is also the irony, is the money is never great. She didn't make her money, her millions of dollars, until after porn. Like Instagram and stuff like that. Like, this is not during, like, she didn't do porn for the money. She did porn for the money in the same way that you do anything else for the money, right? Like, you scrub toilets for the money. You do porn for the money. Everyone has a different threshold of what they're comfortable with.
the economics about it, which I think is so important for people who, you know, have ideas. I just think people should be talking transparency. It's like something around $1,000 a scene or something. Is that right?
Yeah, and my rate was higher
Right.
because I was an in-demand girl than other girls. Other girls would probably get $800 for a sex scene.
Which,
Yeah.
by
I
the
would get-
way, almost sounds like a lot because you're like, oh my God, $800 to have sex with someone? I would do it for free. But that's a guy mentality. That's also like a person who doesn't have to do sex for a living mentality. Yes, it's a job. And yes, you like your job, but it's not the same. Even YouTubers I know hated YouTube the moment it became a job for them. They loved YouTube when they didn't worry about the money. The moment you bring money into it, it becomes really weird. So that's why you have to be careful about not making your art your job, because when you make your art your job, it's no longer just like a thing you do for you, is it? Right? Now you have the demand of the client, you have the criticism of the customer, you have, you know what I mean?
$1,200 for a sex scene. And if you would ask for more than $1,200, like you would be considered a diva and like people would talk shit about you.
Wow.
And I
Which sucks because these men make residuals from their content. That's why I like OnlyFans. That's why I prefer people being independent with their sex work. But these men will make money off Lana for the rest of her life, right?
personally feel that that was a way
And she gets paid once, unless she gets residuals, which I don't think they do.
to manipulate the girls into working for cheaper. Like there were a lot of like subliminals with like directors or your agent purposely talking shit about girls in that way in front of you so that you wouldn't dare to like speak up for yourself
Right.
or ask for more.
Mhm.
Right. Like you
That's what I'm saying. Listen to your communities and how they talk about people, and understand that the community is inhaling that energy and projecting it out onto other people. So when you talk very badly about women or talk very badly about men, the audience you're going to attract is going to fundamentally have that value within them. They're going to have a value of like hating or being critical of men. Once again, just a reminder that when we usually collab with YouTubers will say, Brittany, your audience is so nice about me. Wow. And my audience is being so mean about you. And I'm like, yeah, like that's normal though. Because whether we like it or not, there's an undertone to how we speak. And there is a type of demographic we usually attract, which is why I try to be very careful about my audience, making sure that I'm doing the work to attract good people, which I feel like I've accomplished. And everyone is good in their own way. But yeah, like listen to the way people talk about things. What are they trying to say? What are they trying to get into your subconscious, right? It's like growing up in my home. When my brother became a huge Andrew Tate fan, I was like, how did that happen? I was like, that doesn't make sense. My parents wouldn't approve of Andrew Tate. What's going on? And then I went home and I was re-listening to how my parents, or my mother specifically, talked about women. And I was like, oh, it's you. The subtext of growing up in my home was pro women, but also women are always the reason shit goes bad. But also men suck, but because women let them suck. And so it's always the woman's fault. And I'm like, oh, amazing. Like I did grow up in that home, which is probably why I went so invested in women in the future, and then eventually like what is gender. So I'm invested in all people. But yeah, that was like really interesting. I was really befuddled with why my brother was pro Andrew Tate. And then I realized like, oh, listen to this subtext, listen to this. Ugh.
knew that if you did that, then you'd be talked about in that way as well.
Yeah, you'd be a diva, or you would be like, they just make fun of girls that would ask for more closer to what they're worth. I mean, having sex for $1,500 even is crazy.
Yes. And then it lives on basically
Forever.
Yeah. You've talked a lot. You've been really
I think making or having sex for $1,500 is reasonable if you get money off of each thing sold of you. I think selling your video, selling your likeness, and then them making money off of you forever is what's crazy.
Spoken about your thoughts kind of about porn in general, and we've had on, like, Mia Khalifa was on, we had Chloe Cherry on, different people who've worked in sex work, Julia Fox, obviously she didn't do porn, but she worked as a dominatrix. And I'm just curious sort of what your takeaways are and what your messaging and your feelings are around porn now.
Yeah, so a lot of things I've said have been taken out of context or like a tiny little bit. Like one thing that went viral was people said that I said that all porn should be illegal.
That really made me upset. So many men reacted to Lana and was like, see, Lana's talking about how much adult work sucks, sex work sucks, all of this sucks. But none of them took into consideration that Lana didn't say that. She was expressing a problem in the system. Every time I do this and I express like a dislike within the porn industry or adult industry, people are like, oh, so you're anti-porn now. No. Just because marijuana can cause psychosis doesn't mean that marijuana isn't great to smoke for some people. Just because you can have an issue with something doesn't mean it's universally bad. But that is so frustrating, and people do it just to push their bubble narrative, just to push their bullshit. And that's the part where I want you and I to always like, wait, what did they actually say? Or is that really what they mean? Because again, you can be critical of a system and still just want the same thing in a healthier version. I would love sex work that's healthy and consensual. That is what I want. But am I going to be critical of these male-run agencies and porn companies that tend to abuse their circumstances and their actors? Yeah. You know what I mean? But I'm not criticizing porn. I'm criticizing the people who currently have gotten away with being in charge.
I definitely didn't say that. I was speaking on another podcast about the downsides to the industry with exploitatory managers and agents and directors, and the really toxic and traumatizing things that can happen to girls. And I made a comment that in the current state of professional porn, when these things are happening.
Look, in the current state of professional porn, I wouldn't recommend my friends go into porn in that way. I would tell them to get an OnlyFans or do it from home or do cam work. Do something that doesn't make you have a boss, that makes you have to come to work. Make yourself a boss if you can. But, you know, I've known so many people who do cam or sex work or OnlyFans, and not everybody has the spoons to do it at all times. It's hard to run a agency. It's hard to run a studio. It's hard to get people to show. So again, nothing is perfect. Every industry is going to suffer, and every industry has this problem, right? So we're not like, sex work isn't unique to this, but it is one of those things where I really recommend people have a more independent relationship if they're going to sell their body. And same with actresses and actors. Look, make independent films if you can, because look, if you go into Hollywood, you're going to have to suck someone's dick. And you can make a decision if you want to do that to rise to the top. But that's what I'm trying to say. Girls, I don't know how to tell you this, but industries with power tend to have abuse of power. You can be upset at the people who are willing to sell their souls for it. I'm not upset that they're willing to sell their souls for it. I'm upset that when they complain a little bit, because I'm like, no. You are the one who contributed to this system, right? We all contribute to some system. And that's why, again, you have to do what you can directly do yourself. Like, maybe don't suck that producer's dick to get a role. Maybe don't do that. But you can do it if you want, right? Like, you can do it if you want. I don't think you should do it, but you can do it if you want. It's your body and your choice. And if you want to suck dick to get to the top, if you want to suck dick to get a movie role, you know, you do you. If you want to be nepotism and use your kid or like leverage your kids in Hollywood to be fine, you do you. We have one life and we're all going to die. You might as well reap the benefits of being a Nepo kid, right? You might as well. And at the end of the day, like, is it fair? No. But life never was.
Happening to the girls. It should be, those things should be illegal.
Yes.
You know?
There needs to be regulation.
Yeah. Until there is more regulation put in place to protect the women. I can't say that I agree with the industry, but I will say I do have friends who still shoot porn and they're happy. I'm sure they have some negative experience.
There are some studios that are doing much better work, and then there's some female-run studios that I hear are doing better, but nothing's perfect.
They just don't talk about it. But there are a lot of girls like me who, so I've become more self-aware lately. I was diagnosed with
Listen to this.
borderline personality disorder,
Twins. Yay. I mean, not yay. I'm sorry, girl. Welcome to the club.
which I think my mental state had a lot to do with me being vulnerable to going into that type of career, also not being able to say no. A lot of people
Yeah.
don't understand me when I try to explain how I felt in certain situations or in scenes that I didn't want to do them, but I smiled and I didn't say no, even though inside I felt like I was being raped.
So relatable. This section is so relatable.
But the person who was working with me, it wasn't their fault because I didn't say, it's not like I said no, or I
Right.
said, I don't want to do this. I smiled and said, yes, like I thank you for the work. And now like having the insight that I have on myself and the things that I grew up with that shaped me in that way, I really understand why I wasn't able to say no.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who don't have that understanding or haven't struggled with mental illness, they just would never understand my side of things of how I could feel that way, yet be smiling on the outside.
Yeah.
I mean,
So powerful and so true and so relatable. And the section, I just feel so seen in a lot of ways. You know, there's just something so specific about this lived experience that it's so hard to describe to people, right? But it is one of those things where I think, you know, sort of in the I come off very like headstrong, and I am, especially now, but there were so many moments in my 20s when I was like, I'm so uncomfortable, but is this like how I'm supposed to be? Which is why now when people are like, Brittany, you should act differently, I'm like, are you one of those other people telling me to act differently? Why? Why are you telling me to act differently? I need to know if it's because I'm actually doing something that I should change, or if it's just your version of getting me to fit into your little bubble and your little box and your little prescription of me and my actions. Because so many people do not have your best interest in mind. And I think when they do, they're rare. I think it is rare for people to have your best interests in mind because they barely have theirs in mind, right? Like people barely have their best interests in mind because we are sick, we are traumatized, we are products of our bubbles. I would say that I didn't always have my best interest in mind, right? I was trying to unalive myself before my diagnosis. Lana didn't have her best interest in mind. She was like in these porn shoots. She didn't even want to be there. We don't have our best interests in mind. We are just disassociatively living our lives and trying to figure out, like, am I ever going to feel good? Am I ever going to wake up and not cry? Am I ever going to wake up and not want to die? Am I ever going to wake up and actually want to wake up? You know what I mean? And the answer is yes, you absolutely can get better and you 100% can want to live again. And I'm so glad that I'm living and not just surviving in my life. But it is one of those things where finding your joy and your peace and being introspective, it's a journey. And I see so much growth in her. It is so beautiful to see. I want to see people win, yo. And there's something so beautiful about Lana's journey and her growth and the way she's describing it. It's so good. It's so good, you know? It's just so great, you know?
I think it's also, I mean, it's, definitely personal, obviously, but there's so much cultural pressure that I think that's the story for a lot of women with experiences like that, where they don't understand why they behaved one way when they so clearly felt violated and why there wasn't an instinct to like protect themselves.
Yeah.
And how instead they kind of pushed even maybe further. And I think that can be the hardest part of healing from these kinds of experiences, is like the shame you feel around yourself and like, why didn't I take better care of myself, essentially?
Yeah, why did I let that happen to my body?
Yes. I think that it's not just about your mental health. I think it's just the world we live in and the culture we live in and how hard saying no is. As much as it's so great that you're doing that work, it's also like, it's not an uncommon experience for women.
Yeah. So it's the bubble. your culture, wherever you're born into, the home life you have, the work life you have, the school life you have, the different bubbles you're in, who gives you permission, right? Are you allowed to be a person that says no? And then, of course, because like we're all fighting shame. And that's why I'm saying, like, when you create your own bubble, you don't fight shame except if you betray a value, which is then guilt and shame mixed together. Because guilt is when you've betrayed your own values, and shame is when you've betrayed the bubble's expectation of you. So, we deal with shame because the people around us are shaming us for often choosing ourselves. Nero says, how did you experience splitting in the past? So my borderline's very specific. Anytime I would split, I would often block everyone and seclude, like I would crawl into my closet or into my apartment, and I would like hide away from everybody. I would disassociate very hard. I would not want to socialize or talk to people. I would want to isolate, and I'd become very bitter, like very angry. And I would like, don't talk to me, leave me alone. I'd become very protective of myself. That's why nobody thought I had borderline in my life, because I'm not a borderline that like massively tweets or gets upset with people or fights with people or calls people. My borderline manifests like very specifically. It hides away. It shields me when I'm splitting, which is like years and years ago. I can't remember. When was the last time I split? Probably. I'm not sure. I'd have to think about it really. But when I split, I isolate and I self-harm. So for me, it's like people just think, oh, Brittany got sick or Brittany didn't want to hang out today. If they are with me, it just looks like I'm cranky, and it looks like I'm never going to be happy, like I'm a party pooper. So people are like, oh, Brittany's being such a party pooper. But in my head, I'm having like this splitting reality. And I'm like, what is happening? And so to get myself centered again, now I just, I haven't split in over 4 years. I've been chilling. DBT really saved my life, really helped me. Honestly, so recommend, even if you don't have borderline, to be honest with you. It's so good. But yeah, my splitting is very specific. I tend to isolate, but I remember in the height of it in Seattle when I was like splitting all the time or having disassociation all the time, I would be like all ready to go to a BDSM event. I would like be so ready to go to a BDSM event. I'd be like sitting in my room ready, and I'm like, I'm going to go outside. And then my friends would text me, be like, hey, we're going to be 2 hours late. And it was like my whole world would shatter. And all of a sudden I was like, oh no, like I can't go now. I can't do it. And I would be so overwhelmed. I'd be like, oh, no. So then I would text them. I'd be like, oh my God, you know what? Thank God you're going to be 2 hours late, because actually I wasn't even feeling well today. Is it okay if we just cancel altogether, since I know like you're way far out? It would take you a long time to get here. I'd rather just stay home tonight anyways. Is that okay? And I would play it off like, hey, don't even leave the house. But I would sit in my room, self-harm, and cry in a big puddle of abandonment. And I would feel rejected, because I would be like, I'm on time and I'm ready and I've made an effort for you. I just worked 12 hours a day. And now I'm like with no sleep, ready to go. And you're 2 hours late when I know like you've been home all day. And it's like, I would feel so rejected by someone just like canceling or switching plans on me, that I would like, oh, I can't do this. I can't do this now. Like I can't do this. And so I would just like stay home, but I would always make sure people felt like it wasn't them. Like, oh, I'm just sick. Like, oh, Brittany's just a flake. But I was actually like feeling so rejected that I would just like self-sabotage. And again, I haven't done that in a few years now, but yeah, good times.
How do you feel about sex now?
Okay, so going back
Great
to
question. How do you feel about sex now?
I have friends who still enjoy doing sex work. And then how I was prior to sex work, I've never been a girl who has like, I only had one partner.
Oh, I think Lana is demisexual. Not that I think everyone is demisexual, but listen to how Lana describes her relationship with sex. Also, oh my God, thank you, Ania. Brittany, I'm hugging your past self. Thank you.
Before I did porn.
Wow.
So I think girls who really enjoy sex and they're already doing things like gangbangs or like loving just having sex all the time, it might be a more fitted career for them, because they're profiting off something that they would be doing anyway out of choice. For me, I was never interested in having sex with someone who I wasn't in love with.
Very demi.
And so I think that definitely...
Nero says, how did that just go away? It didn't just go away, Nero. Therapy, thousands of dollars. Okay, it cost about $3,000 for me to go to therapy, about a year of therapy. DBT specifically. I've read thousands of books on philosophy and psychology and fiction and anything I needed to understand myself, right? I have it a lot and I can't imagine it ever going away. It absolutely goes away. You go into a maintenance stage. So I'm in remission for my borderline and I am in a maintenance stage, which means I maintain my mental health so I don't split again. I haven't had a splitting episode in years now. It's been about 4 years, I think. I have to literally go and research my journals and see when the last time was. But you do not just do it. It doesn't just happen. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of meditation. It's a lot of focus. It's a lot of DBT. If you can't afford DBT therapy, there are DBT books. There's videos on DBT from Marsha Linehan. You can even read her autobiography. You can recover from borderline. Most borderlines who get therapy show immense recovery within 1 to 4 months. Dr. K has a video on borderline. I actually reacted to it. It's up on my channel. Like, there is so much hope out there for people with borderline personality disorder. And if, or any feelings of irregulation with emotions, right? If you have any why does that word sound wrong now? If you have any issues with your emotion regularity, you can do DBT, right? You do not have to necessarily have borderline. I wonder what causes borderline. You don't have to wonder. It's childhood trauma. It's usually childhood trauma or relations to rejection, not feeling identified, not having a clear identity. It's usually rooted in abandonment. Like borderline, you don't have to wonder. Borderline is heavily researched at this point, but it is about abandonment, right? It is about feeling like you might not have like a real safe a place, you know? Yeah, I have been in therapy for like 10 years and I cannot get over the fear of rejection and abandonment. You're seeing the wrong therapist. Fire your therapist. You have to go to the right therapist. Like, you cannot keep doing 10 years of therapy. Like, you have to go to the right therapist. You have to see the right people. You have to get the right tool. Because, like, look, if you keep doing something and it's not working, you don't have the right tool. There is the right tool. And depending on your age, are you going to therapy as a child to an adult or in your 20s to your 30s, right? You know what I mean? An environment of toxic shame causes borderline. Great summarization, Maiden. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I loved my home growing up, but it was a very toxic shame bubble. Insanely toxic with the shame in my bubble. So bad, you know? Well-intentioned people, very, very toxic shame bubble. I used to be like that too. It's so hard not to get intrusive thoughts sometimes. I mean, I still suffer from intrusive thoughts, but I know what they are. And I'm like, okay, noted. Like, it's just like, What is specific about DBT in comparison to CBT? Well, I never took CBT, so I don't know. I heard CBT is very helpful for people as well. I know some of my friends took it and really liked it, but I don't know what the differences are. Does anyone in my audience, have you guys done both? I've only done DBT. I've never done CBT. So I don't know personally the differences, but I know that both can help. But DBT, I don't know what is the difference actually. Maybe we can email Dr. Kirkonda or Dr. K and maybe somebody can talk about those differences. But I would Google it and research it. And I would ask my therapist, what's the difference? DBT is specifically by Marsha Linehan, who has borderline herself, who created it for borderline. So I recommend DBT just because it's a therapy that was made for us in mind.
It played a huge part in me not enjoying being a sex worker or feeling traumatized by certain experiences because I feel disgusted being touched by someone that I'm not in love with. And I've always been that way, which would be hard for people to understand me doing porn then.
So yeah. Demi, I'm not that way. I'm not that way. I don't get disgusted by someone I don't love having sex with me. I've had sex with plenty of people I wasn't romantically involved with. So I don't have that. That's why I think I'm allosexual and she's probably Demi.
Yeah, of course. So what is it like now that you're outside of that? Like, do you kind of just completely separate the sex that you had when you were working from like the personal romance and intimacy you experienced?
Yeah. So the biggest difference would be when I was working, I never thought of it as sex. It was a performance.
That's very common. Do you know that it's very common for sex workers not to think of sex work as sex? It's very normal for them to treat it like a job. It's very normal for it to be a performance. That is incredibly normal. And that's just how it is. Work is work is work is work, girls. Work is work is work is work, girls.
And I would plan things before the scenes of like what I was going to say, how I was going to squeeze the bed sheet. Like
Yep.
it was strictly a performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really normal.
And then the times that it couldn't be were the times that were traumatic for me.
And what do you mean by when it couldn't
Like
be?
when it got to me as a person, like say I showed up to a set and they didn't tell me that I would be working with an 80-year-old man. Like that's it. Then in my head, it was like I could feel every bit of it and it felt like rape to me because I
Right.
didn't want to do it, but I didn't know how to say no. The other times are just a blur because it really was
Ooh, listen to this. I've done both. They're quite similar, but DBT has the mindfulness aspect and radical acceptance. CBT is more reprogramming your thoughts, emotions, and behavior. Interesting. I will say, I think that's why DBT and my love for philosophy really helped me. I really contribute my recovery from borderline because I'm a philosophy nerd, and mindfulness is a big part of philosophy and meditation. Often on my channel, when I talk about radical acceptance, people think I'm talking about DBT, but I'm talking about philosophy and mindfulness as in like meditation. So I want to say that it is kind of ironic, but it makes sense because of Marsha's life and where she got inspiration from and like how it went with her. I'm actually finishing up her book still. It's a lot. It's a heavy book, but like anyways, so that's really interesting to me. I think that's what I contributed to myself. Like I think my recovery and the reason I was sort of like quicker on recovery was just because I had already read all these books and I already had all these like understandings of my consciousness, and then on top of it I just needed DBT to help like give me a foundation for my mental health. That's why when I say when you're becoming a whole human being, mental health and spiritual health are different, right? Because they're different even though they overlap, you know. Maiden says CBT is more about analyzing your thoughts and how they affect your reality, whereas DBT has the additional proponents of emotional regulation, mindfulness, radical acceptance, and interpersonal effectiveness. I love it. Love it. DBT and philosophy definitely go together, right? Right? DBT has tons of philosophy in it. I love it. I love philosophy. It's the best. That's why I always laugh when people are like, philosophy is like, you know, like philosophy is structured and it's written down. It's very specific. Philosophy is the introspective journey into knowing, my bros. It's like so funny to me how people think philosophy is only what they've seen in academia or on YouTube debates. Isn't that so? They're so missing out. Like people are missing out of so many tools because they think, oh, real philosophy is only what I see when I see Sam Harris debating with somebody else. Like as if Sam Harris wishes.
it's just a performance and didn't impact me in any type of way that I know of right now.
And how did you leave it finally? What was the last straw?
I didn't know how to quit, but I was having panic attacks, just generally wanting to die and not knowing how to tell anyone like, hey, cancel this year of work, because they would tell me
Yes, Kay, philosophy is the love of wisdom.
everyone's going to hate you. You'll be banned from the industry. So I actually ended up getting fired by my last agent because I was just mentally in
Listen to
the
this.
fucking shits.
Listen
and
to
we had
this.
gone to this award show in like Tampa, and these other girls were there. The other girls did not like me. Just I've always been like very quiet and like I'm very
This
nice
story.
too, but I'm
Oh, I guarantee you those girls were hella envious and jealous of Lana. They were probably afraid she would replace them or thought she was too good for them. Like, I could see why people would be very jealous and envious of her. I just think she's so lovely, though. I'm not going to lie. I feel like Lana and I would have a hoot of a time.
quiet. And so people would be like, oh, she's such a bitch. Like she doesn't want to be friends with us. That's why she doesn't talk to us, when it's the opposite.
Yeah.
And so they didn't like me. It's obviously my choice if I choose to drink or like do drugs with people. So essentially, like I got really drunk with them and they all were doing like Coke and I ended up doing Coke.
As one does.
And
You know, I never got to try Coke. It's always been a dream of mine. I don't think I need it. One of my brothers likes Coke and he's like, you don't need it, girl. And I was like, I mean, if you say so.
I just snapped. And when I won the award, I went on stage with a microphone and I was like, my
Wow.
agent sleeps with all the girls that work for him. And that's why this and this.
Yes, girl.
I threw a shoe at his head.
Very
Wow.
George Bush.
And then
It just all came out at once.
yes.
Mm.
And And
Was that cathartic?
I was also obliterated.
Right.
Yes.
The next day when I woke up, I woke up in the mental hospital the next
Oh
day
my
because I
Yes.
ended up jumping into crocodile infested waters in Tampa
Ooh,
Bay.
Wow.
girl.
And they called the police, and I woke
Coke isn't worth it. Noted.
up in a mental hospital
I bet it is highly overhyped, honestly. Highly overhyped. I bet it is, Kay.
in Tampa, Florida. And my friend called me and she was like, this never happened, by the way. These girls that were there, they went online and
Discord says thinking about Coke instantly makes me have to use the restroom still. Okay, I'm not doing Coke.
one of them posted scratches on her neck and said that I beat her up. I did not.
Jesus.
I did not.
How old were you?
I was under 21 at this time.
Oh my God.
And so all this is going on, like the porn community's like going crazy, like saying that I'm such a bad person.
I tried it once and didn't like it. Okay, you guys are convincing me Coke sucks. Okay, I see your comments. Ugh. Okay. I believe you. Maybe I'll avoid it. I don't know. I'm gonna be good unless I'm in America. No drugs, right? I heard it depends on the quality of Coke. Okay, wait. I'm back in it. Unless it's quality Coke, I'm not doing it. How about that? Listen to Lana telling this story. She finally gets a hold of herself on Coke, gets on stage, tells everyone her agent is sleeping with all the girls, and all this bullshit that happens. It sucks. That's what I'm saying. You're always in this weird place where you just know everything behind the scenes and you're like, what the fuck? Everyone's shitty, bro. But they don't even mean to be shitty. They just don't know how to be better. People don't want to be better. It's so much work to be better. It's so much work to be better and not to be that person. And truthfully, it's rarely not toxic because humans just aren't introspective, right? And even introspective. What did I say a few weeks ago? I said even if I had like a library that I created and I invited you all into this massive library and this is my works, like my life's work, eventually y'all would start fucking, there would be drama, y'all would try to sneak over to the herbs and spice aisle and just fucking fuck behind the, you know what I'm saying? Like as much as I dream of having a community, a physical community where I have this great, amazing library where people come in to study and just like share knowledge, y'all would start fucking and there would be drama and all of a sudden Brittany Simon's in the headlines as Brittany Simon starts library education center to actually sleep with people, even though I'm monogamous and that's not true. Humans be messy. I'm going to stay isolated like a hermit. So y'all can't even try no shit like that.
Person and like I got dropped by my agent. But for me, I was like, oh my God, like what did I do? But at the same time, I was like, yes, like
Right.
now all my jobs are canceled. I can walk away now. And
Right.
so it was really a turning point in my life where I was able to get out from under something that was really hindering me. And I just felt stuck in. And around that time, I met a boy who was doing Instagram and YouTube. And that's kind of when I found out that I was being paid very poorly for what I was doing.
This is Mike,
He
right?
was
She's
getting,
talking
he had
about
like 1
Mike.
million followers and he was getting like $15,000 to post a picture with a Jeep on his Instagram. I was like, I'm getting $1,200 to have sex with someone. So I was like, I'm going to do Instagram. And I just started posting every day and I grew my account to over 15 million followers. And
This is Lana. Let me show you. So this is, oh, wait, that's me again. Hold on. Okay, this is Lana's Instagram. So this is where she is now with her Instagram. It has 16 million followers, but she looks like she deleted all her posts. So there's just a few posts here still. Yeah, she does look quite different than before, but gorge either way. We love her. Yeah, she's obviously like beautiful. Very different than the girl we're watching in an interview, but very beautiful. Like Lana's always been gorge though. Good for her.
under 2 years.
Wow.
And that's actually what catapulted me to #1 on Pornhub. A lot of people think that I was like really like in porn.
By the way, Brittany, will your live streams always be privated for members from now on? Yes, they will. But good news is I'm pretty good at clipping. Okay. So I'll be clipping for you guys. And good news is that when you become a member, you support my work. So thank you so much for doing that. I really do appreciate it. As you guys know, YouTubers work for free and then we hope to get paid. So I do appreciate the likes on the videos. If you don't need to support me, you don't need to support me as a member. It really helps. But obviously, liking and commenting for the algorithm helps more than you think. And it's free. So I highly recommend it. And I thank you so much.
Yes, I was very booked, but I wasn't number one. I wasn't even like
Searched,
top
whatever.
20 at the time, like well known. That came from people discovering me on Instagram and being like, oh, wow, I can also see this. And so it translated over to that.
And were you able to monetize your Instagram and have more
Wait, so weird to have sexy pics and then yourself as a child. Yuck. Don't look at my Instagram, girl. You're going to judge me. My Instagram has that. Wait, why is that weird? Like, sex workers are people too. We used to be children too. We have lives. Wait, why is that weird? I have that too. Don't look on my Instagram. Wait, is that weird? That's not weird. Hold on. Is that weird? That's not weird. Wait, I have that. Wait, I have that. Is that weird?
control over everything?
Yeah, I got my first brand deal probably at like 3 million followers with Fashion Nova. They were the first person to give me a brand deal. And it wasn't really, I was one of the first girls coming from porn to move over into Instagram and
Love that.
get actual jobs and make money from it. And I was just so happy and relieved that I was able to do that.
And you were living in LA at this time?
I had moved back to Chicago periodically and then moved back to LA when I met Mike, my boyfriend that I did YouTube with.
And what was that?
Which I think was Mike from Impulsive. We love Mike. I actually really was rooting for them to work out. You know? I think she only looks different because she's older and a mother and babies change you. That's true. That's very true, actually. I did not recognize her at all with this look. Yeah, she looks very different, gorgeous always. Yeah, it's not worth doing coke with all the fentanyl going on. It's not worth the risk. True. That's actually like so true, right? Oh, it's my trauma. No judgment, girl. I know. No judgment. It's okay. It's okay. No judgment.
What was it? I've seen your guys' videos and stuff. What was that like? Is it a good relationship to look back on?
We're still big supports for each other. We will struggle a lot with different mental.
Wait, you guys don't like her eyebrows? I kind of like them because she can pull them off. I could never pull them off. With Love and Peace, her eyebrows are a crime. I don't know. I kind of weirdly like them, but I think same with her bangs. Like no one else could pull off these bangs, but is she just so pretty? She pulls them off. Is that what's happening? You know what I mean? Ooh, does one automatically become a YouTube member when joining your Patreon? Are they separate? They're totally separate. They give you totally separate perks. So some people who are on Patreon don't care about members videos. Some people just want members videos and they don't want to pay for Patreon. So, and then Patreon and YouTube don't have a good integration system. So they're separate. So depends on what you want. If you want Discord, join Patreon because it comes with like events every month. If you want membership YouTube videos, sign up for YouTube videos. It just depends on what you want. I try to give everyone access to everything. So they don't have to, you can pay for everything if you want everything, but you can pick and choose if you don't want everything too.
Things. And even to this day, if I'm having an issue, I can call him crying or...
She's talking about Mike, I'm pretty sure, from Impulsive. I'm only saying pretty sure, even though they had a very like popular and public relationship. Mike from Impulsive. I mean, that's the only YouTuber I know she dated who helped her on that in that bubble. So I'm assuming that's who she's talking about. And they are good friends and he speaks very highly of her. And he was even around to help her when she was like having her baby. So as far as I know, they have a really good relationship.
Having a mental breakdown and we'll just each talk about our problems. And it's really nice sometimes because it takes you out of your own problems to hear about someone else's or really anything that I need or he needs. We would always show up for each other. So I would say that it is a great relationship that I built and also helped us both tremendously in our careers. I got to step away even further from adult work. At the time I was still doing.
And Impulsive is Logan Paul's podcast with Mike Malik. Mike Malik. Is that how you say his name? Hold on. Impulsive. How do you spell Mike's name? I always forget how to say his last name. Mike Magic. Malik. Mike. How do you say Mike's last name, guys? Malik. It's Impulsive with Logan Paul and Mike.
Doing OnlyFans, and I really didn't want to do it anymore.
What was your experience like with OnlyFans?
Yeah, so I think OnlyFans is great. Having come from professional porn, I think it's great that so many sex workers now have mostly the control handed back to them. Obviously, there's still
True.
going to be
Same. I agree.
exploitatory people in that industry as well. But in most cases, it's a lot better for the girls. And so I just, I was doing it for so many years at this point. There wasn't anything wrong with OnlyFans. I just was like, I don't want to show my tits right now anymore. Like, I'm just tired of it. And I really wanted to have a kid. And so I was trying to figure out a way to make income without doing any type of sex work. So when I
Fair.
got the opportunity to work with Logan and Mike,
Logan and Mike. It is Logan and Mike.
it just made sense, and it helped us all tremendously at the life point that we were in.
And so
Yeah,
it was
see, collaborations, boosting each other up, being there. But I think their relationship still ended up pretty good together. I'm really glad they stayed friends. I think that speaks to both their characters, because I'm a big fan of that part of YouTube in a sense that I really see growth in them. And though I'm not always happy with Logan's actions, Logan and Mike have changed. They've become better people over time. I think Mike in particular, I'm really rooting for him to find the love of his life. I really hope Mike gets married and has kids and has his life, because I know he really wants somebody, and I really want him to have that. And I'm bummed that it was Lana, but I'm glad that they had their friendship together. I really am.
that was the transition and the avenue away from any type of sex work.
Yeah, and I'm about to go back into OnlyFans.
Okay.
But I have not done any type of OnlyFans or any type of sex work really for 3 years.
Ooh, I subscribed to her OnlyFans at one point because I'm a big support the content creator kind of person. Plus, I want to see what other girls are doing. I remember it being nice, but not as branded as I thought it would be, which was kind of nice. It was more casual in a way.
No?
Was it scary to leave it behind, or did it feel good, or was it both? What was that like for you?
I had other goals like having a kid. So when I finally was able to supplement my income without having to show myself.
You have to remember, guys, even if you're as popular as her, even if you're there, you still have to be relevant. Logan isn't automatically going to make money. He has to show up to places and post and be active. There is no reality where you want to keep that level of wealth and you can't stay active. Now, he could retire. He could put that money into something. He could try to live a humble life. But if Lana wants to stay relevant, if Logan or any of these people want to stay relevant, they have to work, they have to collaborate, they have to do stuff together. That's, remember that everyone, depending on the game you're playing, right? You have to be active in a way that I think people don't understand. It's, it's very exhausting, right? It can be very exhausting, right? Her look is more artistic and model-esque now rather than having that girl next door look she became famous for. Oh, I agree with that. Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
Be sexualized in any way, it was really relieving. I'm not a very sexual person, so having to put myself out there in that way is generally uncomfortable for me.
Why did you want to have a kid so badly, and what's that been like for you?
I just always wanted to be a mom.
Yeah.
Just
Aw.
always. And before I got pregnant with my son, when I was married, I used to beg for a kid, and
Wow.
I would collect baby clothes.
Wow, you always wanted to be a mom.
Yes, so bad from 18. And so it was kind of always just becoming financially stable enough to be able to support myself so that I could do that and not have to do sexy stuff. I really don't like when people do sexual stuff while pregnant.
What do you guys think about that? I know a few girls who did that. Now, for survival sex work, that's different. I'm not going to judge that. But in general, I thought about that. Again, if I got pregnant, I had to ask myself, would I do OnlyFans pregnant? My partner and I had this discussion. Hey, how do you feel about that? And to be honest with you, I don't want to invite the kind of audience that would want to watch a pregnant girl be sexual into my OnlyFans audience. So I wouldn't do it personally. But what do you guys think about that? Because again, I don't know what that audience is about. I don't understand that bubble. I don't understand sexualizing pregnant women like that. I understand pregnant women are beings and they can be sexual beings and they, you know what I mean? But there's something about like, ooh, it's when she's pregnant and showing that's sexy that confuses me and I don't get it. So I personally wouldn't do sexy stuff while I was pregnant. You know what I mean? I'm not even a big fan of the mom naked shoots that I see. If I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really understand getting naked either and being pregnant unless it's more natural. But like, you know, those glam shoots people do, I don't get that bubble either. It's like, I don't get it. Cause I'm not really understanding the point of this. It doesn't feel very like wholesome. It doesn't feel like, oh, I'm like in nature having a baby. It feels more like I'm glammed up and sexy and also pregnant, and I don't get it. Now, that's not to say pregnant women don't get to be sexy, but you know what I mean. There's something there that I don't get it. So personally, like I'm not a fan, but what do you guys think? Because I know women make some money, which also confuses me. Like, why are they making so much money because they're pregnant? Like, why is that a thing? You know, it's weird. I hate those pregnant glam shoots. Yeah, I don't like those. They're weird. I don't get it. I would have to think about it. I think if she's not showing, it's fine. But the 8 months look, yeah, that's what I mean. The 8 months look, I'm like, I don't know. It gives me an ick, but I don't have any more data than that. Yeah, I'd have to think about it. It's like for me, I think it's too associated with the baby. I think my brain. So I'm like, why are you being sexy with a baby? But then that makes me wonder if the earlier comment we got was the same thought. Seeing an Instagram that's really sexy and then seeing a kid's photo might be putting the sexiness and the kid too close together. Wait, did I just get it? Are you still here in the comments, girl? Like, is that what it is? Is it like, oh, when I think babies, I want to think cute and wholesome. And then when I think sexy, I don't want to think about babies? Is that it?
So I wanted to make sure that I could at least sustain myself for 10 months without.
Yeah, what was your pregnancy like?
Awful.
Yeah, I read about you talking about that. Why was it awful?
Yep. Okay, we got it. We're seeing each other. I agree with that. Why is it different? Why am I okay having an Instagram that has sexy pictures and then cute family photos, but I'm not okay with pregnant shoots? Ooh, everyone's got a different line. Everyone's got a different line. Okay, I see you, girl. I see you. Okay, interesting. I remember when Lena the Plug Val says, got so criticized for doing OnlyFans pregnant. You know? Ania says, I heard this true crime about a mom doing adult work with her baby, like breastfeeding content. Ooh, I heard that too. Wait, I've heard that too. Do you know what I'm saying? That's what it is. Ma'am? No. Okay, wait. Now I want to go back to my Instagram and delete all my kid photos. Wait, I think I just had that feeling too. Yeah, wait, now I'm starting to get that feeling. Damn it. Okay, wait, I might have to go back and delete all my kid photos. Yeah, see? Now I'm freaking out. Yep. The association. Yeah. Interesting.
I've experienced a lot of health issues from it. I developed PCOS afterwards, which is like an
PCOS.
sexual reproductive insulin. It's basically the diabetes of your sexual reproductive system.
Wow.
So I have to take medication now for the rest of my life. And it developed, you can get gestation.
Oh, wait. Wasn't there a YouTuber that posted a kid video on her OnlyFans? But to be fair, it was her acting as the kid. Yeah.
Gestational diabetes while pregnant. So it sort of manifested in that way. And then it was supposed to go away, but then it continued over into PCOS after. So I was just very uncomfortable. I gained a lot of weight and my body filled up with tons of fluid.
Interesting. I wonder if that's why she's so thin now.
My face was just like.
Did you have preeclampsia? Or,
No.
Okay.
Wait, not acting? It was her kid as what? Oh, it was her. I remember that. No. It was like a YouTuber and Instagrammer who was like, join my OnlyFans, and then it ended up being a picture of her as a kid or something. It was supposed to be like a gotcha, but it was so inappropriate. I remember that. That feels like 20 years ago. Yeah, that feels like 20 years ago. That's so funny. Sometimes I freak out if Indiana's in the background of a photo and I didn't notice. I'm like, can my cat be in this photo? Yeah, like I remember that. Yeah.
It
Okay.
was just from the insulin resistance, like
Okay.
essentially having diabetes,
Ugh.
untreated diabetes, because you can't take medication.
Right.
And I couldn't walk. My boobs got so big. My back,
Whoa.
like taking a few steps, I felt like my back was going to break. So I
Wow.
spent like 10 months in bed.
Oh my God.
Whoa.
Yeah. And mentally, it
would
wasn't.
you do it again now? Or
No, I'll
Yeah.
never be pregnant again,
Oh.
It's
ever.
good to know
Fair.
that.
Yeah, never. The birthing experience was great though. It was one of the best days of my life.
I loved
Aw.
giving birth as well.
It was
Oh
so
my God, she's a mom?
like euphoric and just special and amazing.
Even with all the health complications that you'd been through.
Yeah, because I felt like it was going to be the end of it. And like, it was
Wow.
finally like, so I went through my pregnancy completely alone as well, which was a choice that I made. But I also went into a weird mental state when I
Wow.
got pregnant, probably because the changes in my body that I just,
Do you hear how I love the way these women are talking to each other. It's calm, it's thoughtful, they're listening to one another. They're doing like, there's so much good energy here. I don't know what it is, but this is such a good like podcast energy. They're listening to one another, they're sharing. Like something about this is such a vibe, but doesn't Lana sound so different than the clips I showed earlier? Doesn't she sound like there's been so much growth? She's come so far.
felt really uncomfortable being seen by people or being, it's very vain, but I did not want anyone to see me in that state.
I don't think it's vain.
I
You
mean-
spent your life like making money off your body. It's understandable when it's
Interesting.
drastically changing
I wonder if there were any photos or documentation of her in that state.
and you're not in control of it. You don't want to have to be exposed to the world in that way.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I also didn't recognize until I was pregnant. I was kind of on this kick before of, oh, your looks aren't that important. Enriching your mind and becoming more intelligent and learning how to speak better is more value to you. And I really thought that I had moved into that mindset. And then I became pregnant and I felt all my value left to the point that I didn't deserve to have friends anymore. No man would even want to look at me because I was so fat and gross looking in my mind. And you never should feel like that is your only value. And I thought that I was so beyond that at that point. And then I realized that I really wasn't.
Yeah. I mean,
That's an introspective realization right there. That is an introspective realization, right? That's her saying, I shouldn't even feel this way. I logically know that, but what am I going through? That's like a conversation she's having with her own consciousness, right?
I feel like you're still so hard on yourself because it's like, of course you felt that way.
Yeah.
You had built a life and career around that. So even if you were sort of interested in trying to do something else, like it makes sense that, especially again, the thing about pregnancy is that you just don't have control. You don't know what's going to happen.
The scale goes up even if you're dieting.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And do you like being a mom now?
I love it. It's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Besides, like, I still have some of the health issues, which obviously sucks, but I wouldn't ever take it back. Like, my son has changed my life in the best ways possible.
That's so cute.
I wouldn't ever even go back to the person that I was before.
Oh, back to the person that I was before, her past self.
So I guess it did lead me in all directions to where
great.
I like where I am now better.
That's great.
That's great.
A lot of things have changed for me mentally over the past few months. I recently started medication. I got proper diagnoses. I've been doing a lot of work on my mental health. But since having my baby, I have struggled probably from the worst mental health issues that I have in my entire life, just like debilitating. I've spent the past, since becoming pregnant, like over 2 years just in bed and not living life or functioning like a normal person. Besides, when it comes to my son, I always show up for him and I always do everything that I'm supposed to do and make sure that his life is great. I always give him the childhood that I wish that I had.
I am so invested in her growth.
And above and beyond, so that he doesn't grow up with the traumas that I had or the personality disorder that I had, which comes from people not validating your emotions or punishing you for
Sorry,
emotions.
I'm like getting so emotional.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, no, I'm that's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
But it's also really remarkable what you've been through.
Thank you.
And it's amazing that you're taking care of a child and also trying to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
It's really difficult.
And it's so important to, especially like with my sister, I always minimized like if I wasn't functioning properly because I'm not seeing or hearing things. But
Going back to her sister who has schizophrenia, severe trauma from someone in the family caused her to basically be very ill from a small age. And Lana had to take care of her older sister. And here she is now. Wow.
when you realize that you're not functioning at the level that
Wow.
you should, or you're not living a life that makes you happy, you should go and get help and quit putting it off. I had never taken medication in my entire life, but recently I started a medication called Wellbutrin.
Some people I've heard have a really good relationship with it, and some people I know have had a very bad relationship with it. So it works for some people, but not for others. It's an antidepressant as far as I know.
And binge eating disorder completely gone the day that I took it.
Amazing.
I quit. And like these were episodes that were severely impacting my life. When the thought came into my head that I had to start eating, it's all that mattered in that moment. And I would eat like an entire pizza, an entire loaf of bread, 20 candy bars, just to the point where it felt like my stomach was going to explode. And then I would be sick for days after. And so I started this medication that went away, but I still had this issue now with, I don't have anorexia. I have like an eating disorder, like basically the symptoms from every eating disorder.
Does she have like,
so I still was,
I wonder if she has like a BPD related eating disorder. Does that make sense? Like a sense of control eating disorder? Not that I don't know much about eating disorders, if I'm being honest with you. I'm not very educated in the eating disorder bubble. So I'm not really sure. But yeah, interesting.
restricting, and I would go days without eating because I just felt like I needed to lose more and more weight after experiencing the PCOS and being a lot heavier than I wanted to be for a long time. And the Wellbutrin also just, it's like pathways switched in my mind that I couldn't begin to comprehend or even think in this way before taking the medication. I also don't spend days debilitated in bed anymore because of it. Like I would lose 3-4 days a week that I could be working to not being able to get out of bed because
Yeah, I know people very similarly where, again, some of my friends who have taken it had a really bad experience, but some of my friends who took it changed their lives for the better. Like literally was the best decision they ever made to take it, but it doesn't always work that way for everybody. So interesting.
whatever would switch in my mind just made everything feel like everything was so negative and I couldn't see things any other way. Like I would just wake up one day and think you're deformed, you're the ugliest person on the planet. Nothing that you're doing is going to work out. Like just like these like crazy thoughts and
really negative self-talk.
Yeah, but it was just like it really felt so real. Like that was reality. And then I could wake up the next day and be normal again.
Those intrusive thoughts, let me tell you.
And so now with the medication, it keeps me more at like a baseline.
Love it.
Where it doesn't really dip down that far.
This is a new interview from 7 days ago. So this just posted. Again, I'll link it. It's already linked, but I'll link it again in
I'm not
chat.
debilitated by it anymore. And I'm doing like DBT therapy and
Yeah.
regular.
Let's go, Lana. Let's fucking go. DBT represent. I'm gonna cry. I'm so happy for her. I'm so fucking happy for her. She's killing the game. This is the best news. She is killing the game. Yes, like this is such good news. Like I'm so proud of her. This is what I want to see. This is what I want to see. This is beautiful,
Therapy
bro.
weekly as well.
Let's go.
There's still like other things that I feel could be better, and
Let's
just
fucking go.
really getting the help that
doing
you
great.
need so that you could function on the level that you deserve to, because everyone deserves to live the life that they want to live. And if for whatever reason your brain is not functioning properly to let you do that, you should do whatever you can to get help for it.
Right. Use the resources that are available to you and try to take care of yourself. What's next for you? What do you see for the next couple of years and beyond that?
So now, like, this
Ugh.
is only recently, but, like maybe 3 months now, I've been on the medication where I'm actually able to start thinking
Great. I heard that it could be different for everyone, but I heard like 3 months is usually when you like level out. So that's really good.
about those things again
Mhm.
and getting back into my career that used to mean so much to me. So I am relaunching my OnlyFans
Okay.
Let's
actually
go.
next week.
And how do you
Let's
feel about
go.
it?
Oh, that
With
means
the
it's
team
launching
that
now. This is a week later. Ooh, I wonder if it's launched. I bet it's fire,
I
yo.
have around me now, I feel really great about it. And also I'm not doing like nudity or anything. So it's more of kind of like going back to childhood where I used to watch like these documentaries or these shows and like I would disassociate into them. I still do that with films like really
Mm.
niche like foreign films, and I like ones that have like I still think that like implied nudity and implied sexuality
Ooh, like this is okay because I do like I want to do as I get more into like what I do. I like it to be very like floral. Like I just did this little mini film for my OF, but it was like I filmed it behind the camera of my wedding flowers, and unintentionally the camera like blurred out the scene, and it was like really gorgeous. And I was doing something like I was masturbating, but like okay, like it was really beautiful, and like the flowers zoomed in and it became unfocused, and it kind of was just like such a vibe. And so there's something to be said about when you're creating something, like why are you doing it? I just want to feel pretty and nice, and then when I have mommy muscles I'll do some stuff with that. But I want to do like implied nudity but also be nude. I want to do like erotic art. I want to value the body. I want to be body positive. I want to do something beautiful. Not that like porn for orgasm isn't great, but it's different. Okay. And so I'm excited. I kind of want to sign up for her OF, honestly. Like that sounds exciting. Maybe I'll do a review. Maybe I'll review her OF because that sounds really dope. Is it like burlesque? My stuff is definitely not like burlesque, but burlesque would be a really good idea to put on OnlyFans because again, it's like you put so much effort into it. It'd be nice to have people who are into it. I do more like other world like feeling work or slash like body positive nude work or around the house work. But I would argue that mine's more like fae feeling, like ethereal, right? Like I have a new Twitter that's just my adult content basically to like bring in a wider audience for people specifically looking just for that. And it's like called Ethereal Bert because my name is Bert on Twitter Twitter. So I did that and I think it's kind of nice. Can't wait for your mommy muscles. Me too, girl. I've been hitting the weights. I'm seeing it. I'm gonna cut this. I'm taking out all gluten and bread. I'm eating chicken and salads and fucking sugar-free cookies, which are great. Ethereal erotic art. Yeah, that's like the vibe. Ethereal erotic art is kind of like my vibe. But yeah, I vibe with this, Lana.
is really beautiful and also a way of creative expression. So
Not sure if I should Google what is burlesque. Google it. Burlesque is a form of dance. It's amazing. It's really great. You'll probably enjoy it. Google like the best of burlesque or burlesque. I can even show you burlesque on YouTube. It's really great. Look up burlesque on YouTube. It's really lovely.
I'm directing films kind of like the ones that I disassociate into where I can be part of them.
I wonder if is dissociation the right word? You know when you watch an anime or you watch a movie or you watch like something and you fall into it, like you become one with the character. Is that a form of dissociation or is that something different? You know what I mean?
That has implied nudity and like it has like kissing in it, but it's never anything
Oh, that's hot.
like me and my friend who's here today.
Yeah, it's like soft and sensual, I bet. That's really great. I love that
We shot
vibe.
my first one together, and in real life, like we'll get drunk and we'll like make out. So it's only things that I would do in my real life or things that I truly find to be creative or beautiful. But we never go as far to like, oh, like your boobs have to be out for this scene.
Right.
It's like you might wear, we did a scene where we were like in a river and we had like white garments on, like little flowy white pajamas.
Cute.
And like it gets wet and yeah, you can see your nipple through your clothes.
But it's like
Or
cute.
I'm comfortable like
I love this vibe. Immersive. Thank you, Lex. Immersive. This is so cute. I think people just call it immersive. Yeah, I think she's calling it disassociation, but it's probably just immersive. Oh my gosh, Papa Gut says he hates sugar-free pastries. Him and Rob went to the bakery over the weekend. He said they always give him the runs. No. I'm eating. There's this sugar-free coconut cookie in Croatia that is so effing good. It's like my favorite. It's so good. And I've been eating them and absolute no problems. Fucking delicious. So good. I think American Sugar Free puts like maybe products in it. Because I don't know, but Croatian Sugar Free is delish.
If my shirt kind of falls to the side and like you see it, but I never want to have to be like, oh, like for the shot, your boobs have to be out. Like that's just so forced and uncomfortable. I like things to just flow.
I wonder if this is going to appeal to men. Like my OnlyFans definitely appeals to like a very specific demographic of people. And I love every single one of them. They're so kind and they're so wonderful. And I'm just so glad they give me like the space to create any content I want because that's so nice. Like not to be, I have a very happy audience. Like they don't demand, they don't like complain, which is just so lovely. Because again, I have this creator hope that you're there to see what I want to do and that you're, you know, if you don't like it, you don't have to subscribe. But I think Lana is going to get a bunch of girls. I want to sign up for her stuff. I wonder if she's going to get a huge girl jump because girls like to look at pretty girls. I mean, I do. So like, you know,
Really naturally and be creative and beautiful. And I feel really good about things like that. And it feels good to like be able to express yourself in that way. Just like anything's great, whether it's making clothes or modeling or directing something or acting, just to like the artistic expression is just so therapeutic. I feel.
Yeah.
that's great. That's
Well,
fire.
I'm just so happy that you came on and talked about your experience. I think your willingness to talk about everything, and I'm sure you kind of get it from both sides, like of people being like, why is she saying this, whatever. And I know that it's not easy to put yourself out there and talk about your feelings about things that people judge you for. And
Oh yes, soft sensuality. Yes, Monet. Oh, I'm here for it.
I
That's
just
great.
really appreciate it. And it makes me really happy that you are taking such good care of yourself and that you're enjoying being a mom so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I will say I read your book.
You posted it. It made me so
Yes.
happy.
And then I listened to the audiobook on the
Oh, I'm
way
about to watch Brittany's. I'm about to listen to Brittany's book.
here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was so much nicer to hear it in your voice and like the end like really hit where you ended it with giving birth to your son. Like almost like it's a new era in your
Cute.
life and like you're taking control back of your body.
Yeah.
And I will say there were parts like I really related to so many parts in your book as well.
What did you relate to? Because when you posted it, I was like, I wanted to hear what she liked about it.
With like some of your own mental health struggles or like internal dialogue and thoughts that you had, I could relate to.
Yeah.
Just your thought process on a lot of things I found to be similar to mine. And
Yeah. Well, some of the stuff you said just now about like money and, you know, when you're so young being sexualized, like how empowering, quote unquote, that feels
Yeah.
and how confusing that can
oh,
be.
yeah, that was another
Yes.
thing.
Exactly. The reason again I'm suspicious of people who sexualize young women or young boys and claim like, oh, I'm really in love with them. I'm 20 years older than them, but I'm really in love with them is that they always use this whole, they're independent, they're empowered. I see them in this way, but like, do you? You know what I mean? Do they want to be seen this way? And yeah, like young people want to be empowered. They want old people to approve of them because they think older people are mature. And if the older person likes me, that means something good about me. Maybe the older person liking you means something bad about them. You know, not always, but I'm just saying. Okay, this was a great, oh my God, I love this video. I'm going to link it once again in the YouTube chat. Please check out her channel. I'm already subscribed. This is Emily's channel. Radowski, I don't know how to say her name, but she's lovely. What a vibe, what a freaking vibe. Comments are great. Energy is great on the channel. I really recommend it. Okay, I'm trying to think here. Just so excited for Lana's journey. Like the reason I wanted to show you guys this once again, introspective journey, check. Is she better than she was 2 years ago when I made a video about her? Yes. Is she obviously doing the work? Yes. The girl is in DBT. She's on medication. She's chilling and go to therapy. She's being a good mom. She's good with her relationships and friendships. She is solid. This is all I want for the world. And I'm not making a prescription. You don't have to listen to me. But man, she did it. Like Lana really did it, and I am here for it, and I'm just so glad she shared her story because, again, when popular people like this talk about DBT and therapy and getting better, and another borderline girl, because there's so much stigma against people with borderline on the internet, so much stigma. It's just nice to hear from people that are in recovery or that are working on it. You know what I mean? It's just so nice. It's just so freaking nice. I'm here for it, girls. I'm here for it. Yeah, we love to see it.
Stuck in my head, in real life I'm in bed, my belly's being fed and I'm okay, I'm just fine, yet all I do is whine, not to you in my mind, cause I know I don't make sense, I've been nothing but blessed, so why's my life a mess, please tell me, cause I'm sick of thinking, yeah, I'm sick of reaching out for the truth and living life as a fool.